My name is Linda McGlone, and I work for the Monterey County Health Department, and I coordinate a youth violence prevention program called STRIVE. Today we're going to be talking to 3 YES leaders who have implemented the program in Salinas, California, and Soledad, California. This is an evidence-based YES is an evidence-based program that we learned about through our funding from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and we found it to be a great fit in our communities of Salinas and then Monterey County, where we have a problem with gang violence. So I'll begin today with a brief overview of the YES program. Then you'll have a chance to hear from each of our program leaders about their experiences with YES. The purpose of YES is to empower youth to be effective community change agents in partnership with adults. The curriculum has an interesting perspective on youth working with adults and recognizes that many times adults feel that they know what should be done and are directing youth. But this curriculum turns that paradigm on its ear, and the youth are very much in charge of, especially the community project, their selection of it, and then how it's executed. I thought I'd give you a quick overview of the different components within the curriculum. There's definitely leadership training. Learning about our community is accomplished through a photo voice. Then in Unit 3, Improving Our Community, they begin to plan their community project. Unit 4, they bring on adults. The kids actually hire adults to help them with their community project, and it's really wonderful to see the kids interviewing the adults and making their selection. Then Unit 5 is completing the community project, and you'll hear from our different leaders the very different community projects that each of their groups chose. And then Unit 6 is action and reflection. It has some additional sessions. One or two of them are about public speaking and then about etiquette. So you're really preparing these young people to be leaders in their communities. I wanted to mention that the Monterey County Health Department's STRIVE program adapted this curriculum. The curriculum itself was created and developed by the University of Michigan, and they provide 2 different versions of it for free online. One is a multicultural version of the curriculum, and the other is an African American version of the curriculum, which reflects the demographics of the city in which they began the program, which is Flint, Michigan. With help from the CDC, we adapted the African American curriculum to suit our Mexican American youth here in Salinas and Monterey County. So this is one of the sessions has the young people create an altar, which is the purpose of that exercise is to help them connect with the adults in their community and to link them to their culture. One of the other sessions that we adapted is the session on teamwork, which in the African American curriculum was for the emphasized work done through the civil rights movement, and we adapted that to be learning teamwork through the farm worker movement, which of course had its start in many ways here in Salinas and Monterey County. The kids in this example make protest signs or signs asking for improvements to work conditions, as the farm workers did back in the 60s, and then also to changes that they'd like to see in Salinas. Currently in Monterey County, we have 4 partners. You'll hear from Rancho Cielo, Sun Street Centers, and the YWCA. I'll be briefly describing the City of Salinas Parks and Recreation site. And we're very excited about these folks repeating the program and then adding some new partners in the fall, which will be Sunrise House, and our Boys and Girls Club will be offering the program at 2 middle school sites that are funded by the ACES program, I believe. So they have after-school funding, and that's helping them pay for the Boys and Girls Club to implement YES at these 2 middle schools. So I'm going to next introduce our YES leader who implemented the program at Soledad High School. But by way of introduction, I asked each of our guest presenters today to talk about the session that they felt youth really responded to talk about some of the challenges that they encountered and how they overcame those challenges, and then if they have a story about one youth in particular that they felt was very much affected by the program, we'd love to have them tell that. And then each will talk about the community project that the youth chose. So with that, I'd like to introduce Jermaine Caldwell, who's from the YWCA in Monterey County. And let me turn the phone over to here. There'll be a little rustle. We'll be accepting your questions throughout the program. So if you have a question, please add it to the chat box, and then we'll save all the questions till the end, and we'll read those after our presenters are through. So with that, I'm going to hand the phone over to Jermaine and let her begin.
Thank you, Linda. Hello to everybody out there, and I am Jermaine Caldwell. I'm the Youth Education Advocacy Coordinator at YWCA Monterey County, and I'm here to speak about Soledad High School and our involvement with the YES program. So first off, utilizing YES, let me just start off with a timeline. We actually started the YES program a little late in the year. So we actually started it after the winter break before spring vacation. So in understanding of how much time that we actually had to actually condense the program a little bit more. But it just so happened to cross paths with another project that really helps to prime the idea of what leadership is in the community. So in collaboration with the Girls Health and Girls Hands project, we started I'm totally blanking out right now, but it's a campaign called Post a Smile, and it really helped to prime the idea of what it means to empower girls in our group, in our YEA group, and how to really plan out a campaign to get a project done. So what Post a Smile was a preventative action plan to help prevent suicide in Monterey County through positive messaging throughout the school. So they decided to take Post-it notes and put it all over their schools. So my YEA girls actually had decided that it was probably in their best interest to collaborate with other groups so that the strength in numbers can really help to deliver the message, especially across such a large school. So the idea of understanding what it takes to empower other people who have strengths that we might not have really helped them to push along the program and push along the project in itself. So with the help of their friends at ROTC, and we also collaborated with a couple of other groups to include Planned Parenthood, and let's see who else was a part of. Oh yeah, Health Department did actually with the Postponed Girls did help out a little bit with the posters. So they put out these positive messages, and with these positive messages, they delivered these Post-its to more students throughout the campus so that the students understood that these positive messages help to not only make a smile, but they also help to encourage positive attitude and to discourage depression. So that being said, it was a week-wide campaign, and they thought of it as really well, but at the same time it was also really tiring because we did have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to post up posters after a spring break, and then afterwards we had to, we were going to post the posters up before that, but the elements, it was raining like cats and dogs the week before. So there's a lot of logistics involved as far as timing is concerned, and we didn't have much sleep that entire week. But the girls really showed that if given an opportunity and given a vision, and more importantly, given the empowerment to say that you can do this, just will help you out with the little minor details, from there they were able to really just deliver a great message, not only throughout the school, but this was a county-wide project. So other schools in South County and Salinas schools and Peninsula schools were all connected with a hashtag through social media and Post a Smile, and it just so happened to work out really, really well. So this particular project helped to prime the idea of what it means to really be a leader in their own element. And then moving on, we were trying to figure out, okay, now that we have an understanding of what it takes in order to be a leader, what does it mean with collaboration and how to use other people, now how can we really take this into the community? Well, first off, YEA is a group that's into prevention education regarding domestic violence. So what we learn about is healthy relationships, and we also learn about how to intervene in unhealthy relationships, and how to understand, how to identify what an abusive relationship is. Well, with the knowledge that our group actually has, we were wondering if the community actually has this knowledge, the same knowledge that they would have. And we wanted to see how safe does the community feel, even in the understanding of domestic violence. And so we put out a community survey. We worked with the local grocery store of Soledad, which is actually a real hot spot in the community, especially on Sundays. So we definitely, we knew that there was going to be a lot of people to ask. So we decided to actually go out and take the community survey the Sunday before Memorial Day, which was huge, big, very, very, very busy that day. And we really expected a large turnout. From 12 to 4, we were out there stamping on the concretes and asking questions. And it was definitely tiring. So going into the unknown, we knew these elements of what it means to be in a healthy relationship. We knew the signs of what an unhealthy relationship looks like. We knew what a controlling relationship looks like. So we decided to ask some simple questions into the community. And from those questions, I'm just going to briefly review them with you. We asked, what is a strength in the community? What is a weakness in this community? On a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is completely safe and 1 is not safe at all, how safe is a child going to school in this community, do you feel? On a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is completely safe and 1 is not safe at all, how safe do you feel in your own community? And then on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being a completely adequate and 1 being not adequate at all, how adequate do you feel in this is the education about relationships and abuse at the schools in this community? Then we asked them, can you name the different types of relationship abuse? And can you name a local resource or agency that helps with relationship abuse? That being said, so we thought that it was going to be a kind of an easy flow, and we were hoping to gather a lot of surveys, and it turned out to be not as many as we wanted. First off, going into Soledad, if anyone has been in South County before, they might know that it's quite the breezy place to be, especially in the afternoon.
Windy.
Yeah, and I say breezy very lightly because we're talking about windstorms here. There's lots and lots of wind. So we set up a nice little resource table with the surveys, and we learned about a half hour in that the surveys were flying everywhere. And our pamphlets were flying everywhere. My cards were flying everywhere. We were kind of freaking out. So trying to track down these surveys, these handwritten surveys that we were getting was kind of a catastrophe. So we decided maybe a resource table isn't working in South County. So we decided to hold clipboards instead and track down people who were coming in and out of the grocery store. Also, with the human interaction, we've learned that not a lot of people like to take surveys. They are very in and out, and it almost seemed as if we were being intrusive on this very short survey. We tried to keep the survey as short and sweet as possible. But that being said, they would say, no, I'm busy, or sorry, I got to get home, or I'm in a hurry. I heard a lot of I'm in a hurry, which was pretty interesting at a grocery store, but that's fine. And being in South County as well, there's a very high rate of people who speak Spanish. So we wanted to make sure that we had at least one, if not two, Spanish speakers in our group to take the survey. And I personally, unfortunately, am not a fluent Spanish speaker, so I'm able to read Spanish and I'm able to record Spanish, but the actual answers, I wasn't quite sure of what they were. So the understanding of what answers were actually being delivered was a little bit of a, I guess you could say it was I don't know, like just a different translation, yeah. So that being said, last but not least, we noticed that just this whole time being on the pavement and walking around for 4 hours straight, and the girls wanted to look very professional. So I made sure to say, yeah, let's look professional. Let's look like we're a professional group. But that being said, they also wore heels instead of wearing flats, and they were high-heeling it around in asphalt. So that got a little tiring after a long while. So just understanding like what it is that you're getting into for so long, it was draining. And by the time 4 o'clock ran around, I could have had a nap right there in my car, not a problem. So it was definitely a challenge, but at the same time, we eventually got 60 surveys in, and we thought that would be at least a good section of what the community fully agrees on. So from that, we had the results.
1 more minute.
Okay. And in the results, I just wanted to share a couple of awesome, pretty enlightening results. One of them in particular, strengths and weaknesses in the community. So about 35.6% of the people stated that there were no strengths or were not even sure of the strengths in their own community. And 27.1% of the people stated that weaknesses that were associated with lack of community involvement or community activity. So they're not sure what the strengths were, but they also know that there's a lack of involvement in their own community. As far as safety is concerned, as far as school safety, personal safety, and adequacy in education, C rating for everybody. Okay, and then last but not least, we noticed that with the one agency that does help out with domestic violence and in education, only one person out of everybody could state the agency that is affiliated with domestic violence education. So we're starting to realize with this community assessment that action has to be done. What we anticipate on doing from that is using these results for next year and bringing it into the next school year so that we can actually bring in a project to connect the community with the school and their education. The gatekeepers or the adult people, we want to definitely keep them in the loop and report that to them and understand that this is something that needs to be brought out as often as possible and as loud as possible. And this would also help to strengthen the student network creating results. So we're hoping that within this next year, we're hoping to create a project that would bring out awareness of the impact of what domestic violence has on the community, and hopefully through the youth's voice of prevention education. So that's all I have, but if anybody has questions later on, you're more than welcome to ask me later.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So Jermaine implemented yes in conjunction with another effort at the YWCA with high school girls. Next, I'm going to briefly describe our implementation at a recreation facility in Salinas, and it's unfortunate that the young lady who led the program, Crystal Serta, is taking her exams to complete her Master's in Public Health program. So our thoughts are with her. So we implemented Yes at a recreation facility, and the group of young people that participated were middle-age youth, so that's 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. In looking at the session that the youth really liked, this is one of the sessions that I mentioned earlier that we adapted, and it was creating an altar to someone who has died. This is a way of connecting to the culture. This altar was made by a little girl who dedicated it to a young boy who had been shot and killed in her apartment complex. Probably the most exciting thing that happened and where the young people had an opportunity to show their leadership was we had 3 officer-involved shootings, and after the 3rd shooting, the community came out and was very angry and began protesting. And one of our Yes participants, Brianna, who's kind of in the center with the white shirt, she was disappointed in the very negative protest that was occurring right across from the rec center. So she asked the adults if she could hold her own protest, and recruited the Yes kids to do a rally for peace. And the media covered this extensively. That night there was actually a riot, and these kids came out the next day, and a rally that grew from like 6 or 8 kids grew to 200 people when one of the other community groups joined with the kids to rally for peace. So again, really demonstrating the youth leadership qualities that are embodied in this program. A challenge that we encountered was that some of our kids had limited English language skills, and so when it was time to create the group agreements, and that's when all the kids in the class create a set of rules or agreements that they will then follow every time the group meets. The first group agreement that was requested was that no one could laugh at people who do not know how to read or write. And I think it's in English, but it could also be in Spanish. So that was something that the kids mentioned that was an issue for them. So to have them participate in some of the exercises that had them fill out a form in the Yes program, instead we did that as a group on a flip chart. So the leader would create the questions and the prompts on the flip chart, and then she would write down, or she would have kids take turns writing down on the flip chart the group's responses, because the kids were struggling with the written forms. For their community project, they chose to do a carnival for teens that was going to be held at the rec center. And one of the challenges with the middle school kids was getting them to stay engaged and focused. And as the work on the community project progressed very slowly, they very wisely hired the director of the recreation department to help them with their project. And that partnership was invaluable because we could see how difficult it was to get them not so much motivated, but focused on a set of complex tasks. So the head of the recreation department narrowed the project and yet gave them a great deal of freedom to plan the event, to lay out the event. And so I think they felt very proud of their community project. When I went to their session and said, well, the project should relate to violence prevention or peace in your neighborhood, how does a carnival night relate to accomplish that? And the one young man, actually the young guy on the left, said, well, for one night, everyone can just forget about their problems. And I said, yep, that works for me. Good enough. So that's a little bit about that project with middle school youth held at a rec center. And next, I'd like to introduce Christina Bruno from Rancho Cielo Youth Campus, who worked with young people actually from ages 16 to 24. So I will pass the phone to Christina and let her begin.
Hi everyone, I'm Christina. I'm going to start by saying, well, we started our program in December and we finished up mid-June. The first session that our students really responded to was the Cultural Heritage and Altar Project. A lot of the students really didn't relate back to their indigenous ancestors, so that was really cool for them to kind of think in those terms. Also, creating the altar, we decided to do it as a group as opposed to individually, but this was a really, really cool opportunity for students to open up. They became very vulnerable. It was emotional, but it really gave us a chance to bond as a team and also to really think about emotions that we try to shut down day to day. So that was really great. Another session that went really well was the farm worker movement. And this is because it relates a lot to, our culture and what we went through here in Salinas. So for them to learn about that, actually, surprisingly, a lot of them didn't know a lot about that history. So it was neat to be able to explore that. The first eye-opening session we had was the Windshield and Photovoice tour. As you can see here are some pictures that our students took. The picture on the right is of a homeless man, and I will read you a reflection that a student wrote about this picture. What do you see here? I see a homeless man minding his own business. He seems to be organized with his stuff. What is really happening? This man has no food or home and is living day by day. How does this relate to our lives? It can happen to any of us at the blink of an eye. What can we do about it? We can help these people by giving them extra food or resources. So that was really cool for them to reflect on our community, our strengths, our weaknesses. If you go to the next slide, it shows some strengths of our community. So, a firefighter there to help, and a man just kind of sharing his musical gifts on the street for all the community to hear, which was really neat. Another the next session that we really liked was the community asset visit. We kind of took a different twist on this. We didn't visit another organization, but instead we visited a resource that our community has that a lot of people don't know about. So we went to a local recreational park and we just went on a hike, and it was a really cool opportunity, one for casual bonding as well as being able to explore a new place that they might not know about. One student even went back there that day with his dog to take him on a walk, so it just kind of shows you new experiences. The next thing this is probably the most impactful, and this is what I would explain as the biggest project before the community project. We had a guest panel where Amanda Baker, who is a local leader, came and told us her story. What she did was her and her family gathered around and a lot of community support and built a park in Salinas, an equal access park for all children. Because students or kids with disabilities can go to this park and be able to play same as any other kid. So she told us her story, and the students were extremely moved by her passion and her ability to gather her resources and gather the community and create something amazing. And they actually related back to her story a lot when planning their own project. So that was very, very impactful. Another session that went really great was the neighborhood advocate interviews. Here, this is when I really saw my students step up as leaders and really take what they were doing seriously by interviewing adults to have them come help them as leaders. So that was a great one. Now, before I move on to the community project, I'll talk about some challenges that we encountered. The first challenge that we encountered was that not all of our students were of Mexican descent, and our curriculum really, really puts a heavy emphasis on the Mexican culture. So, I mean, it was one student, and at times I could tell, or he would say that he felt a little left out of the conversation, but what I try to do is ask him how his own culture can relate to that. And I'm not of Mexican descent either, so I would explain how mine does and hope that he would be willing to share his culture as well. Another challenge, as with any students this age, is respecting of ideas and respecting each other when everyone's talking. People get distracted, people have cell phones, so that was a big challenge. And actually one thing I did that really helped is I did a active listening activity where one student was supposed to tell another student something that was really important to them, and the other student had to play the role of someone who's not interested, who's on their phone, so they can kind of see how that felt. And it really, we had a conversation afterwards, and that activity really did help, at least in the short term. I mean, everyone kind of goes back to being distracted, but it really did help, and when I reminded them of that activity. Attendance was very, very much a challenge in time frame. Our students in general, attendance is always up and down, and we have other programs that kind of have to take our students away from the leadership activities. So that was a big challenge. To overcome that, I tried to come up with a more rigid attendance policy. Actually, I had them come up with it themselves so they'd feel that they were accountable to it. And I also tried to keep constant communication with other programs that we had to make sure that the students could be there. Choosing and finalizing projects was another challenge because the students had a lot of really, really great ideas, but they'd have a new idea each time we met, and to get them to, you know, just kind of settle in on one was very difficult, and I just had to keep reminding them of our time frame, of our goal, and just encourage them to move forward with what they have. Specific sessions that were a bit challenging, there was only one, which was the media stereotype session, and this was just because they felt our curriculum focused on Mexican stereotypes, but they wanted to see stereotypes from all cultures because they kept mentioning that. What about other things? So that's one thing maybe I would suggest. Our group also decided to do fundraisers, and although this was a great idea, near the end it became a very big challenge because the follow-through amongst the kids on what they said they're going to do isn't always what they end up doing. So unfortunately, a couple times I had to learn this myself as well, but to overcome this I had to let them fail sometimes with the fundraisers, just to kind of show them, you know, you got to be prepared, and I would try to just remind them what characteristics they wanted as a leader and whether or not they were reflecting on them. So it was a good time to reflect on where we needed to grow. Now moving on to the end, our community project. What we decided to do, and this actually relates back to our Photovoice reflection, is we decided we wanted to help those in need in some capacity, and ultimately decided to target the homeless population of Salinas. So with our fundraisers, we did bake sales, and we did volunteer activities where we got to raise money as well. With that, we fundraised $900, and we decided to contact a local agency that already works with the homeless population and see how we can best help them. So we contacted Dorothy's Kitchen and asked them the best way that we can support them with what we have. After discussion, we decided we'd assemble goodie bags for them. So our goodie bags consisted of 2 pairs of socks, a few snacks, and a letter signed by the leadership group just telling them to have a nice day, which is what the Dorothy's Kitchen employees said that they would probably appreciate the most. So it was really cool. As you can see, we went to Costco, got a whole bunch of goodies and socks. Everyone looked at us like we were crazy. But we assembled the bags in our classroom, and then one day we went over to Dorothy's Kitchen. So we went over to Dorothy's Kitchen and we helped serve lunch that day. And as we were serving lunch, we handed out the goodie bags to everyone that was there. So this community project, though it was just one day, one afternoon, the students really, really felt proud of what they accomplished and the difference that they made, and it really gave them something that I think that they'll remember forever with the Rancho Cielo, with their time at Rancho Cielo with us. So that was our community project, and we're excited to continue on and do YES next year.
Well, great. Thank you very much, Christina. So Christina held the YES program with at-risk youth and older youth between the ages of 16 to 24. And just as an aside, in talking about the middle school the experience with the middle school kids and how they liked the art projects,
Yeah.
Christina said the opposite with her young people who were much older. They liked the art projects they didn't like the art projects.
Yeah, there was a lot of art projects at the beginning of the first unit, and eventually they became tired of them because my student in that population really wanted to focus on the action, on the planning and doing, as opposed to the art projects. So yes, our program probably a little less art projects and a little more discussion is what they enjoyed.
Perfect. Okay. Well, good. Next, I want to introduce Sylvia Ramirez from Sun Street Centers, and she's going to talk about her experience with YES.
Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Sylvia Ramirez and I'm a prevention coordinator for Sun Street Centers. So what basically Sun Street Centers is, it's a nonprofit organization. It was developed to prevent alcohol and drug abuse by offering education, prevention, treatment, and recovery of individuals and families regardless of income level. So the team I work with is an after-school drug and alcohol prevention program. It's called the STEPS program. STEPS stands for the Safe Teens Empowerment Project here in Salinas. We are also throughout Monterey County. We have an office in Soledad, which covers El Sal County region, and we have one in the peninsula as well. So initially, before starting the program, I started with a huge group. I started with a group of 20 students. The group really varies on just student intake, it varies on season, and it just really varies on the students themselves. The program that I have is volunteer, so any student who wants to complete their community service in order to graduate from high school can come to our location, complete a couple hours, and see what it is they want. I do have a set group of committed students who've been there for a while. I have a group of 3 students who are paid staff members who are part of the STEPS program and have been throughout the whole process. So STEPS completed the Mexican-American curriculum. A lot of the curriculum was more adapted and more narrowed down to the culture. The students felt more of a connection. When we did some of these activities, some of these things that they didn't even know about their own culture and their own background. So it was very interesting, and it was a great learning experience for them to know most of these things. Another thing they were most receptive to is Session 1.7, what does it mean to be a leader? This was the big, and also community assets. Those were the biggest 2 sections of the whole curriculum. This program is just a difference because there's a lot of stigma here behind Salinas. Because when we went around the community, a lot of the community members thought these were at-risk youth, or these students were doing these activities because they were required to do these activities. So it was more of an eye-opening activity when they began to see what does it mean to be a leader, and for them to recognize that they are actually leaders in our community and see that they do have a direct impact and a large impact in our community. And of course, the community assets just huge due to the fact of all the incidents, the violence, the drug usage, everything around Salinas. So something we talked about and something we recognized in the first session is that there's a lot of negativity, a lot of stereotypes, a lot of stigma around Salinas. People tend to focus their attention on the negative rather than look at the positive. So when this session came upon, this is when basically the idea of what we wanted to do with the project sparked up. And that's how it all began. So some of the challenges I mentioned is the group size. I had anywhere starting from 20 students, anywhere from 15, 12. I currently have about 10 students now who stayed committed throughout the whole program. Another challenge that we had is that we selected our community leader to be someone who's from the Prevention Center here in California, but she actually is stationed in San Francisco. So that was a big issue for us because she could only come see us about once a month if we were lucky, and we needed more guidance, we needed more advisement within our group to work on our project. So then that's when we decided we really needed a local leader here in the city of Salinas who would come to our location and who could directly work with us, and we can have a larger impact that way. So then that's when we decided to hire Jay Dunn. He's one of the California newspapers reporter, and he's been helping us along the way. And another thing that I want to mention before moving along from challenges is really taking a look at when do you want to start this training. A big issue for me was school days off, holidays, vacations, also prior commitments, prior responsibilities, and transportation was a huge issue for my students as well. So just whenever starting this program, making sure, looking at the logistics of what is this going to break down into spring break, what's going to happen, are the students going to be able to come to the location, just keep these things on mind. So I wanted to share two personal stories. These are two 16-year-old Hispanic leaders. They're both from Salinas High School, and they're Agustina and Santiago, and they were both touched by all the violence that's been happening here in Salinas. So a few months ago, there was 3 different encounters with police officers and civilians having a couple of disagreements, and a couple of the civilians did lose their lives. And it was a very heated issue, and what happened is that the community actually wasn't feeling safe and was being really afraid of the police, and did not really know what to do. This was a time of protest and a time of anger, a time of resentment. It was just a time of healing that was just not done properly. So these 2 young men just felt that this was really personal to them because all the people who were affected by this were from the Mexican-American from the Mexican-American background, and they felt that the curriculum really adapted to what they learned, that they felt that they had just a connection between their own people. So the students decided that they wanted to do something to outline, and this was the first time where the students actually had an eye-opening experience, and this is when they actually sat down and they said, okay, this is what I want to do as a project. We've been talking about it for so long. When are we going to start it, and what are we going to do? I had the pleasure of having a very committed and empowering group who wanted to do things their own way, which was great because I was just a facilitator and guiding them to the correct path. And they came up with all these ideas, and this was what basically triggered them to want to do a social change sort of movement. So the community project that we decided to do a video project. So what this video project will be composed of is solutions. It would also be composed of the good side of Salinas. The students want to look at what people consider to be the bad side of Salinas. They want people to know what does it mean to be a good leader, and they really want to emphasize and ignore the stereotypes, the stigma around Salinas. And they want to do this by moving away from drugs, alcohol. They believe that there's a huge connection between the violence happening here in Salinas linked to drugs and alcohol. So the emphasis in the whole video is the drugs and alcohol, moving away from that violence and leaving those things behind as well. Currently speaking, we are about 3 weeks into our deadline. We're making the video ourselves. So we've gathered pictures, we're doing recordings. The students will also be doing a rap piece. So the rap piece really emphasizes on the work that they do as leaders here in the city of Salinas, and it's written by one of the students who's part of the program. And they plan to the only thing missing for our video now is the recording of the song and doing the editing. So we're doing pretty well, and we plan to premiere or show it somewhere. The students really want to make sure that the most outreach that can be done for this video. The importance of this video for them is that people from the city of Salinas are speaking, and they want other people and other community leaders to stand up with them and hear the voices. Because we've had outsiders come into our community, do this type of work, but they don't feel like it was something personalized, and it wasn't really explained and profound from a person who's a resident of the area and who's seen it all. So it was more personal by doing it this way and inviting more people to come and see what everyone wants to do together, and so we can collaborate together as a team to improve Salinas. And that's it for me.
Well, very good. Thank you very much, Sylvia. Now I'm going to ask folks, our participants, if you have any questions, please type them in the chat box, and I'll turn those over to our leaders. One of the things about the community project is choosing the location of it. Jermaine did a project that's an assessment, so that doesn't really have a location. You're doing, Sylvia's doing her project around a video, which doesn't have a specific site. But for Christina, we were concerned when we were planning the implementation of YES about choosing a location for the community project, because some of her participants were formerly or currently gang involved. And so you chose, how did you guide them through the community project and the location, which was neutral and downtown?
Yeah.
Do you remember any of that discussion?
Yeah, I mean, the discussion was mostly led by the students. They know their community better than I do, so I led a discussion asking them, you know, where should we go? Is this safe for everyone involved? And that's a discussion that I facilitated, but they really led the discussion and chose a location that worked for everyone involved.
Good. Yeah, that was the real concern. So we have a question. Did anyone involve churches? You could involve churches. Oh, good. Sylvia is nodding yes. You could involve churches in the unit that asks adults to come in and talk about projects that they've done to help the community.
Can I?
So yeah, let's turn this one over to Sylvia.
Yes, so we actually did gather a church. Something great about this curriculum is that it's very flexible, and you are actually willing to shape it around your own group as well. So for one, there is a section where you have to bring 3 community leaders to the to do kind of like an interview mock for the students, for them to ask questions and just really prepare them for the end of the year project. And I had actually a church representative who came into our location, and he was actually part of the interview process, and that was a very good experience to do, just to have a more diverse population within our guests that day.
Super. I could see this program being implemented with a church youth group. Could you?
Definitely.
Yeah. I think that'd be a good fit.
Yeah.
So our next question is from David Garcia. Do you have support of the city? The one group, the middle school group that met at the recreation center, we worked very closely, as I mentioned, with the city Parks and Recreation Department. They were very helpful in recruiting kids and promoting the program to those kids that come to the rec center after school. And then, again, the joint planning of that teen carnival was wonderful and something that the middle school kids really needed help with. And because of their expertise with youth, they were a huge help. Our city, like many cities across the country, has some financial struggles, and so one of the things that we would hope for the future is that that the staffing limitations at the rec center would be lessened, and that they could devote a staff member to leading the program for the entire, it's really, if you do the complete program, it's 4.5 months long, plus the community project. There is an abbreviated version that's about 22 sessions, so it works out to be almost 3 months long, and then plus the community project. So great question from Kimberly Ramirez. She wonders, how did you recruit the students to participate?
My girls actually, so YEA is a group that's participant at Soledad High as is during school, so this was an extension to the group. But actually now what we actually are going to be doing for this next school year is implementing it into the curricula so that it's actually part of the group involvement rather than it being kind of an extracurricular activity. So this is really helpful for us because it helps to bring about what healthy relationships are not only within the intimate circle but also within the community circles. So this is something that was basically an extension of what it is that we had already adopted anyway. So we just decided why not just make this as part of the actual group in itself. So for our group, we have a recruitment process. They usually have a club carnival that happens during lunch. We get a sign-up process. And then from this list of kids, we have our advocates. We have a family advocate that actually reviews the lists and adds in her own potential students that would basically benefit from the group. And then from there, we kind of hone it down to the dynamics of what each student is so that we know that something will be accomplished rather than it being a circle of friends.
That's nice. So you got some help from the school with your recruitment.
Definitely.
Christina, how did you recruit kids from Rancho Cielo?
For our group, it was actually open to everyone who is part of Rancho Cielo Youth Campus and part of John Muir Charter School at Rancho Cielo. So the announcements were made over a couple weeks that we are starting this new leadership program and giving an idea of what we'd be doing. And I did have a short application that they'd have to fill out if interested, but anyone who filled out the application, anyone who showed interest, because that's a huge step for this group to step up and want to be leaders, then they were welcome to come to our meetings. And most that came the first day continued. So
super. Let me take a question from Leah Perkinson, who is from the Centers for Disease Control. Hi, Leah. She asked if you all have any one piece of advice that you give to someone who's thinking about doing the YES program. One piece. Sylvia, what would you tell them?
I would really say that it's going to take a lot of commitment and dedication. I think it's something that it's very it's a program designed to work very well with the community. My only concern that would be is selecting the correct group of individuals who will stay committed throughout the whole process. Maybe if it's inviting them, having snacks for them every meeting, maybe it's having any type of activities together, something that's going to have the group really stay committed. A big problem is just having the students stay committed throughout the whole process and really adapting it to the group. Every group is different, but I believe it's something that could be done if it happens twice a week, once a week, and just really going on from there. One of the first sessions is the best one out of it. It's the one where students actually open up the most, and that's when you actually start working as a team.
Any other tips, single tips that you'd really emphasize?
I'd say logistically, knowing what my capabilities were within a group setting, it was hard for me to do it twice a week, so I actually condensed the group sessions to once a week, but longer sessions, so that they were more impactful. And I agree with Sylvia as far as the retention rate is concerned, because especially when this is just an option for kids.
Yeah.
We really want to show them that it's an option that's worth keeping. So food definitely helps, but I can tell you this, if you can show them what the end result is and keeping their interests in line, because it really is about youth empowerment and what their opinion is. So we can give them a million different options, but it's going to be up to them what they feel is necessary for the impact. So knowing who would be interested to start off with rather than just accepting anybody, I personally think that you just really want to know what the dynamics of this student is, and do they have that potential, and more importantly, does this student have the potential to show that to other students to basically create that ripple effect. So really getting those people who want to do something, who are antsy in the pantsy, but more importantly, they're wanting something.
Wanting to start.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a question from David Garcia. Where do you get the finances? The 3 agencies that are represented here all devoted staff time to the leaders, and so paid for the cost of the leader. I think these 3 leaders would say that what they liked about YES was that it worked well with what they were currently doing. And so they felt that it was a good addition and enhanced their current programs. We did provide, through our CDC grant, we did provide $1,500 as seed money to agencies to begin. $1,500 isn't a lot. It certainly doesn't cover staffing, but our thought was that that would give them money to buy any art materials that they needed, to help with the costs of the community project. And Christina mentioned fundraising, and so the curriculum recommends that if the kids want to do a project, and University of Michigan suggested that the projects typically only cost about $500–600, that the kids were fairly reasonable, and that part of the process of planning that is to look at the money. So Christina talked a little bit about doing some fundraising, raised $500 in the end?
500, matched it with
500, and then we that was matched. So they raised $500. Again, these are older young people. These are young adults, and did that. It doesn't cost that much, but there are definitely some costs. So fundraising is a possibility, and then also an application to a local funder. I think this is the kind of project and the kind of program that local funders really like. Irandi Garcia is on the call, and Irandi oversees or is part of a group called Juntos Podemos, which is a grassroots community organizing group. And Irandi is also associated with a local television station and works with the media. And so I think, Irandi, it would be wonderful to get your group involved somehow, particularly in this session where you want to bring someone in who's done a community project. Juntos Podemos has put on a couple of community forums, which is a huge project, and I think it would be good for the kids to hear about how you all did that. And then if kids chose a media project, it might be that they could look to Juntos Podemos perhaps for some assistance utilizing your media expertise. So thank you for that, and we'll send folks your way. Let's see. How long are the sessions? Did you all do 90-minute sessions, 2-hour sessions?
I started out with 2 90-minute sessions through the week, but then I had to condense it, so I turned it into a 2-hour, impactful session per week.
My students don't like sitting down. My students have a really hard time with attention span, and activities are really interactive. So I divided the activities twice a week per 1-hour sessions, and that worked out very well for the group.
Good, good.
Yeah, we had 2 sessions per week for an hour and a half each.
And Christina, was your group was sort of offered like a club on the school? Say a word about Rancho Cielo.
So Rancho Cielo provides programs for at-risk youth in the community, ages 16 to 24. We have a couple different programs. One program, each program involves getting a high school diploma. So we have the school and the high school diploma, but we also have vocational training for the students. So they can get training in the culinary arts, or they can get training in construction. Both of them have a lot of support within the community, and the goal is to get them to get a job and a diploma when they graduate our program. With that, our program was actually offered the YES program was actually offered as part of school. So it ended up being kind of like a class. It wasn't after school. A lot of them have other obligations. They have families, so it's hard to keep them past the school hours. But it was offered as a class, and they did get elective credits for attending if they were part of the program.
Great, thank you. And finally, getting into the high school, the junior high schools, these are agencies that have connections to the schools. They're either in the schools or with steps. You go into the schools, is that right, Sylvia?
Yes. So something that I do, and I suggest if you're interested in doing this, it's something simple as going into the schools, talking to administrators, setting up presentations, going to different house classes, elective classes, doing outreach, then recruiting the students to get into the program. That's how I recruited my students.
Great. Well, I want to thank everyone for their questions, and then I want to thank the leaders that talked about their experiences, and I hope you all found that informative. I know it helps me as we work with additional agencies that are interested in implementing YES. And I'd just like to close with an offer that if, as a result of what you've heard, or if you go on the University of Michigan site and you look at the YES curriculum and that interests you, I would invite you to give me a call, and I can come out and do a little presentation. And then we're also happy to train your staff if you have a couple of folks, or if we were to perhaps combine a couple of agencies. I'm happy to do a training at your convenience. So with that, I'll close, and I want to thank everybody who participated in the webinar, and we'll hope to talk to you again soon. Take care.